today we're working on scene 8. Scene 8 is one of the biggest scenes in the fact that in Carol's generation there is the most amount of people. There's Emma, Toby, John and Carol. It's a dining room scene. We mainly looked at the script and how we thought we could say the lines and the tone and thoughts and the feelings behind the lines for the motivations of the characters. We didn't so much look at the set or the props or the interaction when Carol comes in. I think we'll look at those more towards the end of the performance and later on in rehearsals. So to start off with, this is our second time that the audience would have seen Emma, and me starting to get to know Emma a lot more. I've referenced Emma quite a bit in my previous vlogs, and how I felt like she was a contrast to quite a few of the other female characters in the play across generations, but how I felt like she should be quite close to Emma because Carol doesn't really have connections to men, more connections to women, but that Emma doesn't really like Carol. So in developing on that, this scene is a lot about how Emma feels that Carol couldn't look after herself, let alone a baby. It's the idea that John thinks that Carol should have a baby and to have another baby, and she should have a job and she should be more independent, but Emma is saying how she can't. She's, a big mess and she can't look after herself. Emma sort of feels this dislike towards Carol because of what she's put John through, and in this scene you get to see Emma and John in the same scene. Emma and John don't actually interact too much. It's mainly Toby and Emma shouting about what they think, and Toby telling Emma to be quiet and not voice her opinion. I think we learn a lot about Emma in this scene because of her interaction with John and with Toby. Because we were introduced to Toby in the beginning scene as someone who was trying to flirt with Carol, who's someone who was quite creepy and a bit of a womanizer, the impressions that I get personally as well, you feel like he's not very faithful to Emma, and Emma could perhaps be quite jealous of Carol because Carol's getting this attention that she may or may not know about. You also find out in the next scene that he was cheating on Emma with the nanny. So that also, once you watch that or read through that scene, that helps me understand how or why she might be feeling the way she feels towards Carol, and why she might take it out on Carol even if she doesn't feel a certain thing. This jealousy that she feels, maybe the fact that John is such a good, faithful man to her and has so much patience, she feels annoyed with that because Toby's not like that with her. She's very opinionated and no one can really stop her from her opinions. Some of the words that she uses are like, she's not meant to be independent and she can barely tie her laces. And when she goes on a little rant about being a mother and being a housewife and how they should have another baby or there could be another man, it's all this thrown up into the air. And I think it's really important for Toby to react to these because it shows how their relationship is not stable, and how that impacts the whole family, and the whole family dynamic is messed up. So no wonder Carol is in this centre of this messed up family, and John is actually quite sane compared to the rest of them, who are sort of, Toby's supposed to be an alcoholic, and this sort of relationship is like fighting fire with fire. The fact that they're both quite strong-willed people and feisty and have their own opinions. John reacts to this conversation by laughing a bit, and also by, you know, being a bit dismissive, because this is his sister. He's used to his sister after all, but it doesn't mean it doesn't get on his nerves sometimes. He wants to also defend his wife, who he does love so much. I think that he shows his dedication to Carol, especially in this scene, because he defends her. He talks about how he thinks it could be good for her and how much he cares for her. And I think that's something that's really important about this scene 8, because even though it's not a really difficult scene to watch, some of the lines can be missed because there's a lot of overlaying of each other, and the pace is very fast. The pace is a lot different to quite a few of the scenes before, because it's mainly just one side. I'm going to talk about what's going on in the other scenes, and then I'll go back to some of the direction and the feelings and motivations. So in the centre, on Anna's side, Anna is getting ready for a wedding with Jamie. She's putting on a wedding dress, she's doing her makeup. We haven't really talked about how they were going to do that yet, but I can imagine that it would be something that would have a major juxtaposition to this scene, because it would be slow and delicate and gentle in comparison to that side, which is fast paced and not very nice and quite opinionated in the way that Emma is, and the way that the scene goes. It's fast and witty. Over on the other side, again, Bonnie is with her rabbit in a hutch, so it's quiet and she's just putting the rabbit away, and I think it shows this detachment and breaking. Maybe they could represent the influence, the mind state that Carol's in, and that Carol isn't actually in that scene at the moment, but that scene is the thing that tips Carol over the edge, so it results in this and then another thing. It doesn't, the other two scenes show a juxtaposition, which confuses me a bit, because you'd think that it would be like an aftermath, but I think it makes the audience, and it might make the audience question whether it was a good idea for Anna to get married, and whether Bonnie is actually happy, because the attachments get less and less. So it shows how there's a big family on one side, but they're not really happy. Anna's getting married, but is she really happy? And Bonnie doesn't even have anyone to be with, just a rabbit. And is that enough, really? Is that just her substitute because she couldn't have someone? And is Anna's substitute Jamie just because she couldn't be with her family? And I think that's something that's quite interesting also. When we go back to how we were told to say some of the lines in scene 8, because the pace is very fast, there's a lot of overlapping of lines, and there's a sequence towards the end that we're going to have to practice a lot, where Emma, John and Toby are all speaking at the same time when Carol comes in with the food. The scene at that point is its most chaotic, and I think that with the way we were supposed to say the lines, the way Chip wants us to say the lines, is literally over the top of each other, so you can hardly understand what's going on. You can hear snippets of it, and perhaps some bit of people are louder at some points, especially at the end when Emma says, Anna's crying, can't you hear? And this sort of chaos, it maybe shows how this is getting to Carol, and it's in her head, and all this noise is too much, and maybe that's what she wanted to try and escape from, when she said she wanted to leave the world, but was staying because of Anna. So I think that's really good, and I think it's something that we're going to have to work on, but I think it'll be really effective to show the internal struggle of Carol projected from the other characters, and I think this is going to be a really interesting scene to play. I've learned a lot from Emma on this scene, and Toby as well, and the relationship, and how it affects relationship between Emma and John as well.